Welcome to another video, guys. Today we're gonna see what are the best performing Tavern Brawl decks, so you can be farming yourself tons of extra Cataclysm packs, basically for free, if you have yourself a bunch of arena tickets. Also, for those of you on mobile that have an issue with spending your arena tickets, what you need to do is buy yourself a single ticket for 150 gold, and that should fix the problem for you. At least that's what I've heard. But anyway, we're gonna check out the 5 best decks, talk about what you should be looking for in the mulligans, as well as some general tips, see how better idea of what you could be doing with and against them. And we're also gonna check out all of the other working Tavern Brawl decks for each individual class, so stick around to the end so you're better prepared of what you're gonna be facing. So I hope you find the video helpful, and if you do, a like and subscribe would be great, and don't forget to check me out live on stream each Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday live at Twitch. But now, let's get into it.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list is obviously gonna be Death Knight, because right now, triple Unholy Death Knight is downright unfair, especially after the Frost Death Knight bans. I already showed you a very similar list to this one. This is supposedly much better with a much bigger sample size, so it definitely has that going for it. And the really big difference here is we have ourselves a couple of maze guides, as well as a single copy of Talanji's Last Stand, and this card really does make a lot of sense because it can really do a lot even with just a bunch of small shits on the board. It's gonna make your board very sticky and very powerful. I'm not even sure what exactly is missing from this list from the original list, so it must have been not that important, so there's that. But yeah, the deck is very fast. You get to build several different sticky boards over and over and over again. Like, you could just start off building yourself a sticky board with things like Mermaid, the Battlefiend Necromancer, the Maze Guide and so on, the Living Paradox, and once the game goes into mid, you can start doing things like Army of the Dead for 5 idiots, Bygone Echoes gives you 4 decent minions, and Shadow of Yesterday can also be pretty busted. So you have so many different ways of refilling the board over and over again, and with Talanji's Last Stand you can even make it very sticky. And as soon as a board actually sticks, Grave Strength is in there to actually finish the deal. Just make sure to have enough corpses, obviously. For the mulligan, clearly you're gonna wanna keep your good early game curve with the Body Bagger or the Mermaid. If you already have one of those, Skeletal Sidekick might make sense. Battlefiend Necromancer is also pretty good if you already have a 1-drop, especially. The Maze Guide, same deal. The Necrotic Mortician, only keep if you already have yourself a 1-drop, because if you just hero power on 2 and play him on free, it is not actually gonna work. You need an actual minion to be on the board for it to die. Curving into Acolyte of Death or Living Paradox or the Phaleric is also pretty good. The rest probably not so much though. Going second, I guess something like Dome Guardians might also make sense, but you have to have a very decent corpsey hand for that to be really worth it. On the number 2 spot, we actually have a Herald Shaman, and honestly, I could not try this one because I'm still missing the goddamn Ultraxion, and without Ultraxion, any Herald deck is just gonna be a fraction of the powerhouse it could be, so I haven't even tried any of those, but I don't know. Maybe I would, but without this guy, it's really such a big downside, and it's a damn shame they gave everybody Deathwing, but they didn't give Ultraxion alongside with it, as well as the Herald cards. Like, without those, what's the point? But yeah, this deck I did try something very similar like it on the Fury Crafting stream, and it was hella strong, and in the Tavern Brawl, if you have all of these cards right now, it should be hella strong as well. It's obviously trying to herald as much as it can so you can get yourself a big Alakir nice and quick. Ultraxion also helps you get a big Deathwing nice and quick as well with all of its herald bonuses, and that can be very powerful on its own. You also have tons of card draw with the help of Muradin's Last Stand. Ceremonial Clash apparently is decent even though it overloads you. Kinda doesn't sound too powerful, but apparently in practice it's actually decent. Portal Vanguard helps you with the card draw. This one also gives you a little bit of extra stuff. Hex apparently is also pretty good. But yeah, all around you're trying to get yourself the Herald stuff down, so you can actually overwhelm the opponent that way, and heralding Alakir does give you a soldier that starts giving Atchison minions +1, then +2, then +4, so eventually you're gonna get yourself a 10 damage, 8 health rush Alakir with Wind Fury, which also gives you 2 minions equal to the cost of this minion's attack, which is kinda sick because it's gonna be a 10er. For the mulligan, you are gonna try to keep the cheap stuff, try hold on to the good Herald stuff as well. You do have yourself a couple of really good cheap Herald cards, so both of which would be amazing. The Twilight Egg is fine because you're gonna be able to give it extra attack once you get yourself some soldiers. Primordial Overseer is also pretty decent. Mars Spawn could be okay. Portal Vanguard can also be decent. And if you're curving into Ceremonial Clash, especially going second, that would also be worth it. Going second, Envoy of the End also might make sense if you have a curve for it. Spot number 3 is for another Herald deck, and this time we have the Warrior kind with Ragnaros, with Deathwing, that kind of stuff. This one doesn't even run the 6 mana guy, which sounds wrong, honestly. I don't get that. Sadly, I don't have myself Ragnaros, so there's that too. So again, I can't really play this deck myself, but if you guys have the cards, might as well give this one a try. Again, basically try to be running all of the Herald cards if you have them. The new Torch card is absolutely brutal, gives you so much removal for only 1 mana, and you get to use this thing over and over again, like it's basically like a shield slam, but it kinda is never ending. So if you use it on cheap stuff, you could literally be using it on 8, 7, 6 minions and still feel great about it, which is kinda huge. In this one, the soldiers you get out of heralding would be having Death Rattle deal 2 damage, then 4, then 8. They're 2/1s into 4/2s into 8/4s, and some of the Herald cards are really busted, like this one for instance gives the soldier a rush. So even if this is the first Herald card you do, it's gonna be a 4 mana 4/3 that gives you a 2/1 with rush, Death Rattle, deal 2 damage. Honestly, kinda busted. And later on, obviously, it becomes broken. The Cataclysmic War Axe is also pretty sick. We're also running the Envoy of the End. So yeah, again, basically all the good Herald cards. You also have a lot of card draw in the form of Acolyte of Pain, Shield Block, Precursory Strike, that kind of stuff, in order for you to be cycling through your deck and find yourself the Ragnaros stuff faster. Mulligan-wise, again, try to hold on to the cheaper Herald stuff. Slam could be nice, the Time Twisted Seer can be decent, Torch depending on the matchup, Precursory Strike might be okay, but honestly, it's not really worth it. You're not planning on having a 5-cost minion in your hand, so there's that. Shield Block would be great, Acolyte of Pain as well, Cataclysmic War Axe, and maybe even the location, which honestly I haven't paid attention to so far. It does seem like it's gonna be a pretty good one. Curving into the Scorching Ravager, especially when going second, also ain't the worst. Same can be said for Envoy of the End. Spot number 4 is for a Druid deck I showed you a pretty similar version of, and yeah, this token dragon buff Druid is really busted right now. As long as you have the cheaper cards, you should be doing very well with it, but it does also run the Brood Watcher, which is epic, and this one actually runs a single copy of it. I don't know if it's by design or it's just that people don't have access to the second copy, but this list actually has way too much sample size for it to be a budget option with a huge win rate, so I don't know, maybe the deck does work better like this, even though I have a feeling this card is absolutely carrying the deck. So personally, I would be running a second Brood Watcher before I include Wicker Fang. Like seriously, this card is busted. And you can check out my full run with this deck where I went 6-1. Literally did not play a single Wicker Fang, so the card is really not that important, but it's definitely pretty cool, and it does make sense in the deck. But yeah, the rest of the deck looks pretty similar to the one I showed you, even though this one does have Witchwood Apple and only a single copy of Living Roots. I really like the Living Roots in my deck, not gonna lie. We also have things like Mark of Wilds, double copy of Power of the Wilds, so I guess it is emphasizing a little bit more on the buff action. But the really important cards would be the Darkscale Broodmother, which allows you to run a lot of extra mana in a turn. The Felwood Treant is also amazing because it gives you ramp. The Crystal Spine Cup can also be pretty snowbally. The new Shattered Wildwood Circle actually feels a lot stronger than people anticipated, and it's actually surprisingly easy to actually unshatter it, so there's that. And I really did like the Brood Watcher. It probably is going to be landing as soon as turn 5 for the most part, but it's a 4 mana 10/11, guys, with half of it having taunt. Like, how could it be bad in a deck like this? Surely you need to be running a second copy, and if you need to be running a second copy, I'd say cut one of the Power of the Wilds. And we also have a Splintered Reality in here, which I guess makes sense given how many treants we run in this one, and this one can really be powerful that way. So yeah, all around it's a very great tokeny aggro style deck with a little bit of mid-range action going to it. And when it comes down to the mulligan, you are going to try to mulligan as well as you can with your early game curve, with the Carrier Whelp, the Crystalline Cub, Living Roots is pretty good. Wave Shaping, you're not planning on doing this on turn 1, it'd be much better if you actually tempo out a minion. Witchwood Apple's kinda in the same boat, but it does make a little bit more sense given you have things like Splintering Reality. Felwood Treant is also pretty awesome. It's actually one of the best cards you could be finding yourself in the mulligan, even though you're not going to be playing it on turn 2 because you need to spend quite a lot of mana for it to work. The Moss Binding is pretty okay, and curving into the Darkscale Broodmother can also be amazing. The Shatter card is also nothing to scoff at for sure, especially going first, because this is only going to have a couple of cards in between, and if you actually manage to keep something pretty cheap, you can literally be playing this on curve. Like, imagine if you have Living Roots plus Innervate in the middle of a Shattered card, you can literally do a turn 2 4 minions with Death Rattle Treant, which sounds absolutely insane. Curving into a Brood Watcher might also make sense, especially going second, so keep that in mind. And the last deck on the list is gonna be another deck I already showed you on the channel, and I did manage to go 6-2 with this one. Literally could have been a 6-0, but the game decided otherwise on the last turn with a 50-50. And this deck was a lot stronger than I anticipated. It has a ton of burn damage, it really curves out well, and a lot of opponents can't really do much about it just because you have so much damage from hand and they can't heal, they can't taunt, so it can be pretty amazing. It does run a couple of legendaries, but you could be running it without them, I'd say, and give it a try. And the legendaries would be Archmage Calic, which gives you spell damage on all of your spells, which definitely is strong, but it's also a little bit on the slow side. And speaking of slow, we also have Volcanos, which really does help you in slower matchups, but for the most part, he's a little bit too expensive for the curve this deck has. We also have Talnos in here, but he doesn't matter because he's a core card, so doesn't matter for crafting purposes at least. And what is the deck trying to do? Well, it's trying to burn people down nice and quick. You have quite a few burn spells in here with the Geyser, with Arcane Missiles out of the Violet Spellwing. The new Sleet Storm is actually pretty amazing, and this doubles up damage from anything spell damage related because it has 2 numbers on the cards. Frostbolt can go face, Primordial can discover you more face damage, Arcane Barrage deals with the board and with the opponent's face. The new Arcane Flow Shattered card is absolutely amazing. This thing does so much extra damage with a bunch of spell damage, it's not even funny. Again, it does take double benefit out of it. So on turn 7, you could do something like Time Twisted Seer, hero power it, and this thing deals 6 damage to the opponent's face and 4 damage to everything, so it's a 7-mana Pyroblast plus Flame Strike combined. Sounds pretty fair, I know. We also have a couple of Fireballs to finish off the deal, and the 10-mana Spellweaver Brilliance gets to drop fairly quickly with this deck, even as soon as turn 4 or 5, if you get a little bit lucky with the setup. Like, you could literally be doing something like Time Twisted Seer on turn 1, the opponent goes crazy and plays 2 or 3 minions on the board, and you get the literally just coin Arcane Barrage with all of that extra spell damage. You will be able to drop 0-mana Spellweaver Brilliances quite easily. So yeah, definitely check out my full run with this deck with the guide attached so you guys have a better idea of what you could be pulling off with it. As for the mulligans, you are going to be looking for your good cheap minions like the Time Twisted Seer, the Violet Spellwing, the Winter, well, that kind of stuff. Sleet Storm is also decent, I'd say. The Raincaller is an absolutely amazing minion to be curving into because it is really gonna scale off quickly if the opponent doesn't leave it in check. Arcane Intellect, if you're curving into it, could be okay, but you're not trying to do this on turn 3 if you ask me, so there's that. And Arcane Flow definitely felt like a good keep, especially if you already are keeping 2 other cheap cards in between it. Going second, the situation is much of the same stuff. I'd say Calic is also probably a keep. Going first, a little bit scarier, but if you have a curve into it, sure. Going second, he's probably always gonna be a keep though. So that's about it for the 5 decks. Now let's check out all of the other working archetypes for each class. Also, the classes I've mentioned so far, we're gonna take a gander at those because I kind of forgot about the scrolly part. Starting off with Death Knight, we can see all sorts of different iterations of triple Unholy Death Knight, but we can also see triple Blood Death Knight doing pretty amazing as well, but this one is hella expensive with the Herald stuff, with the Nyxia, all of those legendaries for Cataclysm, so if you didn't open up a lot of packs, this is gonna be out of your reach. Scrolling down further, again, much of the same stuff really. We can clearly see Frost Death Knight got shot in the face, but here it is a Frost Death Knight actually. Interesting. It does have decent win rate, but it definitely is missing a lot of its staple cards, so there is that. Several other iterations of Death Knights at the bottom, but basically the top 2 dogs would be triple Unholy and triple Blood. When it comes down to Demon Hunter, apparently it's an absolute flop for the Brawl. I actually thought it would be insane here, but it does require getting Ashara. The 6-mana guy is probably also gonna be worth it, but maybe even people with Ashara are not doing that well with it apparently. I guess it's a little bit too slow. Personally, I do believe it's gonna be a sick meta deck, but maybe we're missing too much of the other cards that are really needed for this deck to be working. As for Druids, we are looking at a lot of variations of the Dragon Druid. Again, sitting at the top, I think this is the one I showed you with... No, it's not. This one has smaller sample size, so it's this one. 630 games, definitely not bad. We can also see this one, which is, again, treants, dragons, that kind of stuff. Basically anything dragony is going to be the way to go, I'd say. Here's one with the Prescient Slither Drake. I think this is the one I actually played or something close to it with Acceleration Aura, which definitely does make a lot of sense. In my list, we didn't have that, which felt weird. But yeah, all around, tokeny Dragon Druid would be the way to go. As for Hunter, not that much stuff is happening for Hunter, but here is something interesting. It's a Face Hunter, apparently. Definitely looks kind of cool. We also have a Dragon Hunter looking okay-ish. Not that amazing, honestly. It didn't feel great on the Fury Crafting either, so I don't know about that. And the rest is kind of garbo. For other mage decks, we're gonna have to see plenty of the Burn Mage I already showed you, and wow, 11%? Imagine, 160 games for an 11% deck? What are you people doing, dude? Like, what happened there, Step Bro? Moving down to Paladin, apparently there is a pretty decent Herald Paladin going around. That's kind of interesting. And I actually have all the cards for this one. Might give it a try, I don't know. We have another iteration of it. This one is actually not running any Herald cards, so it's not an iteration. It's a totally different deck, which looks kind of interesting. There's also some kind of budgety Paladin deck with no new cards, which is looking kind of decent, I guess. But the rest are not that hot, it seems. For Priest, apparently there's literally nothing to write home about, so there's that. 6% deck. Why are people putting so many games in this? Are these the Vicious Syndicate lists or something? I guess some of them really did flop, huh? As for Rogue, we actually have some pretty scary Rogue decks with the Herald action going, with Sinistra, with Tess. Definitely quite the pay-to-win deck, this one. But again, I can't really try it to its full potential because this guy's missing for me. We have other variations of Deathwing Herald cards, apparently. And that's about it for the working archetypes for Rogue. As for Shaman, we saw the Herald Shaman is actually doing very well. This is the one I showed you. 1700 decks for an expensive deck like this. Like, some people got pretty lucky with the openings, I guess. We can scroll and see quite a few different iterations of it, and that seems to be the only working archetype for the Brawl. As for Warlock, again, a Herald Cho'Gall Warlock is doing quite fine, actually, but the more populated lists actually don't have that big a win rate, so there's that. And as for Warrior, we can scroll and see quite a few Ragnaros variants. This is the one I showed you with 700 plus games, and we can scroll further, see if we have some better than that. Not really. It's all about the Ragnaros with Warrior, so yeah, that's about it. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing on the Brawl to farm yourself some easy packs, as well as maybe get yourself that cool card back with the 6-0 achievement. If you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be amazing, and do let me know in the comments which is your favorite Brawl deck right now. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.